Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Hi, this is Dave Tu from DCL Logistics, and you're listening to the New Warehouse Podcast. As far as a safety tip, I think the most important part of safety is general awareness in the warehouse. So I think that stems from the top down. So the more people who are aware of safety in the warehouse, the better. I would also say that the more organized and clean the warehouse is, the better it's going to be for your safety. So methodologies such as 5S, where you keep the warehouse super organized, uncluttered, and clean, is going to be very effective for your safety in the warehouse.
Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I will be joined by Dave Tu. He is the president at DCL Logistics. He's going to tell us a little bit about his background, tell us about DCL Logistics, and also talk to us a little bit about how they've developed their own proprietary software and also their kind of partnership, I guess. They utilize Universal robots within their facilities, and we've had Universal robots on the show before. So we're going to hear a little bit about their use case and how they're using them and what the experience has been like. So Dave, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Definitely. Happy to have you on. Happy to learn about DCL Logistics. But I want to ask you a little bit about you first, because I obviously I checked out your LinkedIn, did a little LinkedIn stalking as we do these days, right? And I saw your background. You kind of have a finance background. So I'm curious, how did you go from finance ending up into logistics here?
Yeah. I was an economics major out of college, and first job out of college, worked at big aerospace company Boeing at Boeing Capital Corporation. Did that for a few years, and kind of went to banking and did the investment banking thing for a few years as well. And DCL Logistics is a family business. My father started the business 40 years ago.
Okay.
And I've always been around the business ever since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I can remember working summers as a high school student trying to make, $4.25 an hour, slapping labels on a diskette, hundreds of labels on a diskette for, 3 months during the summer.
Yeah.
And my father came to me and said, after business school, my father came to me and said, "Hey, I want help. I want help with the business. You've been around the business for a long time, for practically your whole life. And we have Amazon and e-commerce shipping that's going on. And I think this thing is going to grow." And I never, besides DCL, I never worked in a small business. So I made the leap of faith and joined the family business.
Okay.
back in 2007.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, and the finance background, kind of going back to your original question, finance background comes in handy because, as you know, logistics is about numbers and optimization and throughput. And so I didn't really know it at the time, but I use my finance background every single day, analyzing numbers and trying to make things more efficient. So it's a natural extension. Finance is a natural extension of logistics.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And we're always trying to kind of cut costs and optimize, as you said, as well. So it's good to have that background and understanding, especially when you're looking at, OpEx versus CapEx and your P&L and all those different things as well. So it's interesting. I didn't realize that DCL was a family company. So that's a pretty interesting story, actually. So why don't you tell us a little bit about DCL and what does DCL stand for, actually?
Yeah, it's funny because everybody asks that question, right? So
I'm sure.
This long history about DCL. DCL stands for Disk Copy Labs.
Interesting.
So, my father started the business, as I mentioned, back in 1982 during the kind of the emerging software days of Microsoft and AOL and Silicon Valley. And at the time he was working, I think he was working for HP, and he asked his friends, like, I want to start a business. I don't want to work for somebody anymore. And his friends in Silicon Valley said, hey, you should, this software thing is going to be big. You should start a software like service business.
Wow.
And that's kind of the origins of Disk Copy Labs. But as you know, today there's software is a dying, basically it's a dead market.
Yeah, there's no real like physical copies anymore.
Yeah, physical. Amazingly, we have 2 or 3 customers today that are software customers, but we don't ship any software. We ship empty boxes to the retail stores as marketing space. Marketing space on their shelves.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so we're shipping software boxes to retailers and wholesalers, and as the software industry kind of turned, we have these assets, we have these facilities, and we needed to do something with these facilities. Plus, our business, we are ingrained with the whole service, the service DNA, and all the value-added services that we were providing for the software industry. So things like assembly and duplication and shipping. We just kind of migrated over from the software industry, and then kind of like migrated over to any hardware products, hardware fulfillment, and other consumer products. So we go by the name of DCL Logistics now. We are a fulfillment provider. Basically, companies that make product, they outsource their operations to us. So primarily, we're omni-channel fulfillment, but we provide other value-added services like assembly and testing and reverse logistics.
Very interesting. So and I guess you said you're about 40 years old, the company, right?
Yeah, founded in 1982. So what is that? That's about 39 years.
Yeah, wow, almost there, almost 40th anniversary. That's pretty great. So now, obviously, the business has evolved because, as you're just mentioning, physical software is not a thing anymore. And I noticed when you said when you were in high school, I think it was, you're slapping labels on discs, right? So I guess that's why. So now you're saying you have a mix. So like, what is your ideal customer, I guess, or are you open to any customers now, or type of product mix?
Yeah, I would say, anything high growth consumer product companies. Because of our roots in Silicon Valley, I would say the majority of our customers are in the kind of digital native brands, consumer technology, healthcare, consumer goods. Okay. But obviously, there's a vast amount of industries that we have customers in. If you ship a product, basically, you're a good target for us, or you could be one of our customers.
Interesting. So it's definitely interesting how you guys have kind of, I guess, pivoted and been able to evolve with, what has changed. And it sounds like maybe you were part of that pivot it sounds like your father recognized that, Amazon and e-commerce was going to be a big thing, which he was right about, obviously. Right.
Yeah.
So how did that pivot look, and how were you guys able to, I guess, adapt to moving away from just shipping software to now shipping basically anything, as you just mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there was any, one intentional day or milestone that generated the pivot, but the change happens, the transformation and the change happens over a period of time. I think actually one of the biggest turning points was, I think my father was trying to make a decision. Did he want to invest as a software duplicator?
Yeah.
He had to make a key decision, which was very expensive. Did you want to invest in the capital equipment, those big disk duplicators? I don't know what the price point of those things were, but hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you had to have those things running all the time. And I think at that point he made the decision not to buy that equipment, and instead, at that point we're still, obviously servicing software companies. Instead, he's decided to outsource that service to like larger manufacturers. So that was a very, I think that was a very prudent decision he made. And so we weren't anchored with all this capital equipment to just service software. And so we basically had these we had these warehouse assets that we could capitalize on. And we were very fortunate because we're in the Bay Area. So a lot of our contacts were already in technology. So the operations directors or the key decision makers on vendors in operations outsourcing, like VPs of supply chain or operations, they kind of spawned off from software companies into like tech companies, right. And they were still looking for services like packaging services, kitting services, shipping services. So that started the transformation from purely servicing software, the software industry, into other things.
Interesting. So it's pretty interesting. It sounds like your customer was also evolving at the same time, because I guess, like you mentioned, they went from being, these software companies, which I guess were selling physical discs at some point, to overall technology companies, and so their product mix kind of pivoted as well. So it's really, really interesting kind of journey there. And I was also seeing that, I guess at some point along the way, I'm guessing maybe to do with this pivot, you guys decided to make your own proprietary software. So I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of what triggered the move to create that?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we were very fortunate because we were in the hotbed of like programming.
Yeah.
In software, and I would say at the turn of the century there, and back in 2000, we were running an ERP system to run our internal operations, and we, obviously it's something that runs our operations and our business, and we needed something that was a little bit more customer friendly for our own internal employees. So wasn't, we didn't, at that point it was like green screen. It wasn't very like user friendly. So we needed something for our customer support group to use. So we basically created it for our own internal purposes. It was like a layer, like a UI, if you will, laid on top of our ERP system. And our customer service people loved it because it was easy for them to reference information, talk to our customers about key data points like inventory or orders. And so we basically created we took that and we extrapolated that and basically gave our customers access to that system. We named this before my time, but my father called it eFactory, in reference to like manufacturing factory. And we still have that name of the product today is called eFactory. And it just kind of taken on a life form of its own. So our customers really leverage this system to basically do everything. I mean, they log in in the morning and they're logged in and they never log out. They basically have it in the background, and so they could quickly look up anything they need to. And it's not just a passive system. They're actively in there doing things like controlling their order flow, managing their returns process, modifying returns process rules. So it's a key part of something that our customers depend on because they can't be in our facility. I mean, they're sitting like you and I, sitting at their homes working in operations. I mean, this is the lifeblood of their company. They need to be touching their product, and this is the way for them to do it.
Interesting. Yeah. You said something really interesting there about, how essentially, it was kind of what you were utilizing was a little dated in a visual sense. You mentioned it had a green screen and, you were looking at almost the internal customer for you guys, which was your employees. So I'm curious, when that switch was made on like the UI and like the user interface and that experience for the employee, did you see like any kind of maybe remarkable or notable change in the productivity and like performance of the employees, or just like the overall satisfaction of the employees?
Yeah, I think from a productivity standpoint, I think it was just easier for them to extract information for our customers. As you can imagine, it's very, in our business, it's a very demanding job. Trying to track down operational information and come out with key, the key data points and key information that's going to be relevant for our customers. So the more information you can get, it kind of, wrapped up in a pretty bow for our customers, the easier it's going to be for them and the less questions they're going to have. So again, it's been transformation because we started this in 2000, and every year, every 2 years, we come up with another. We're constantly doing like code revisions or like releasing new features out there. So every time we release a new feature, it's like we're learning what customers are looking for. And so, it's a continuous improvement thing. And we're still continuing to work on new feature sets for our customers. I think there's two things that are really relevant for the customers. One is how easy is the information to get to within eFactory? So we have to work on like the presentation, the ease of navigation, not even talking about like features. You're not even really talking about features. You're just talking about navigation and transparency, how it looks and ease of use. And then the second thing is like, what's the content and the information that we're sharing with them? Right. So those are two things that we work very hard at. And we continue to do so.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like that. Yeah, because a lot of times I think, companies get caught up in, because I think in our world, in like the logistics and warehousing world, there's a lot of fear sometimes for companies for like switching up their system, because it's like a total overhaul and all this new training and everything. But It's an interesting perspective there that you're sharing about, the change in just like the impact in the user interface and like the user experience, just by being able to not only get to, I guess, the information a little more easily, but just see it overall in a better way. And I think that's really an impact that sometimes is potentially overlooked by companies. So I'm happy that you could share that with us, and it's really interesting. I mean, your dad sounds kind of like he's like a visionary a little bit. He's been able to like evolve with all this stuff over 40 years, and then coming up with their own software is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a savvy businessman, and he's a visionary.
Yeah,
I've learned a lot from him, and I always tell him, "Hey, I think it's time for you to hang it up and play more golf." I'm kidding. But no, I mean, he has decades of experience and a lot of wisdom to provide for sure, and I lean on him a lot.
Yeah, that's very cool. So, you mentioned earlier that you were slapping labels on the discs, right, when you were in high school. So obviously over time, technology has evolved, and, one thing that you guys have implemented are robots from Universal Robots, and which are utilizing the robotic arms that they offer. So I'm curious, how did that implementation come about, and how did you, I guess, make the decision to invest in robotics, and how long started out? At what point was this? Is this fairly recent, or it's been a few years?
It's a great question, Kevin. Yeah, it's been a few years. I think we started this process in 2019. So maybe 2.5 years ago we started this process, and I think as our e-commerce business was scaling and growing, we were looking for more automated ways to handle the kind of the variety and myriad of ways our customer inventory profile was, and try to standardize and automate how we were shipping those orders out, and basically strip out as much labor out of the process as possible. And we were looking at a lot of things. We were kind of playing with a lot of concepts. We were looking at, autonomous robots. We were looking at goods to person systems. We were trying to look for the right fit for our business. And, it's not an easy decision, right? Because, there's a lot of data that you have to sift through. A lot of these systems are can be very rigid. Or maybe just handle like a very specific use case, or maybe they're very expensive, so that the cost of entry is very high. We needed something that was more like, we could experiment with, that was more incremental to what we were doing. Because as we're a 3PL, so we have 70 to 150 different customers, and most of the time these contracts are shorter term or medium term. So we need something a little bit more flexible. And so that kind of, after looking at a lot of different concepts, we kind of stumbled upon Universal Robots, because we're looking at piece picking. We were looking at what in the warehouse, where's most of our labor going? And most of our labor is going in the actual shipping of any particular order. So that that's all most in any warehouse, as you know, Kevin, most of the cost is in CapEx. Right. You got your capital equipment, and then you have your labor. So it's like capital equipment or the warehouse cost, that's going to be there because you have to pay rent. You need racking, and so we were like, okay, what's variable that we could look at reducing, and that comes down to labor cost. And as an e-commerce, mostly, we're omni-channel fulfillment, but most of our business is e-commerce now. We're looking at, okay, that's the major portion of the labor. So let's look at ways of reducing that labor portion of it. And we stumbled upon the piece picking robot with Universal. I don't know how we found them as a partner, but it turned out to be a great thing, because we could integrate that piece picking module within our existing system. and not the other way around. We didn't have to like re-engineer our entire process around the robot.
Yeah.
Basically, we just like kind of integrated it into our existing system, which has worked out great.
Pretty cool. So I'm curious, what was like the first day like you get this robotic arm like in the building, you open up, I'm sure everybody was like excited, but was it like this cool momentous day, or how was it?
Yeah, I mean, and me as a president, of course, you want to, first day you want to see the full concept like fully fleshed out, and things don't happen like that. It's very rudimentary, basic robot. At first, it's just an arm, and then it's like, what do you do with the arm, right? And then you have to, basically, we took our automation team, and we had to add to our automation staff, and we had to integrate an entire process. So we had to figure out, not only do you have this arm, okay, it's great to have an arm that does X, Y, and Z. You had to program the arm to what you want it to do.
Right.
So essentially, we have a arm that's picking inventory product off of a shelf and marrying that product into a box per order. So it's basically doing piece picking per order, putting it into a box, and it's going down a conveyor belt. And then you have the next order that's in line, and it's the next box, the next empty shipping box basically slides in, and you could go through the same process over and over. So it takes time, and it's definitely done in phases until you have a fully fleshed out process going.
Interesting. Yeah. So I mentioned, we talked to Universal Robots on the show before, and something we had discussed was the UR Academy. Did you guys utilize that Academy resource they have?
We may have, Kevin. That's probably not. I don't know if we have or not. I'm sure we did. Okay. I'm sure it's something that's very effective. I'm not sure myself.
Gotcha. Okay, no problem. So overall, I mean, you said you started in 2019, and obviously, I'm sure that over the last year, there's been a huge spike in e-commerce for everybody. So how has the experience been with the robot through that? Because I'm sure it's been somewhat of a stress test, I would imagine, over the past year.
Yeah, we're very lucky that we kind of completed the project over this past year. I mean, it took a year and a half to kind of figure out and get it into production. Yeah. And we finally released the robots in two of our facilities. And it's not a complete replacement for what we're doing, and we continue to do more with the robots. Yeah. But it definitely has complemented our kind of, I would say, conventional way of shipping e-commerce orders. So we I would say it's decreased our labor by about 50%. Oh, wow. In the output, when fully utilized, it does 4 times more than a normal kind of human process. Wow. 4 times faster than a normal human process, normal human line. So it's definitely something that our teams are now relying on it to augment what we're currently doing in the warehouse. It's been great, and we continue to look at applications in which we can use it more.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I forgot to tell you, Kevin. Yeah, not only is the speed has it increased throughput, and it's allowed us to expand more quickly with heavier volume and more peak and variability in that demand. It's decreased labor, but the quality aspect of it is second to none. Because now, I mean, it's reading barcodes, and it's essentially that you take out the human element out of the decision making. Yeah. So it's in some ways it's forced us to be more organized in how we, for example, place product into the flow rack, right, or in the racking that the robot picks from, how we place the inventory on the rack itself. And then the quality pick accuracy is virtually 100%. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine, because with the robots, as I've heard from several different use cases, it's pretty much if it's wrong, the robot is no, that's it. I can't do anything. I'm done. So, whereas like you mentioned the human element, it's like, well, maybe this is the right thing. Maybe I'm just looking at it wrong, and they just throw it in the box, right? Or they grab something next to it. But the precision of the robot takes away those errors. So it's pretty interesting to hear your experience with it and how it's been such an improvement for you as well. I think that bodes well for kind of the future of robots as well, and the more adaptability throughout the industry. So one thing I wanted to ask, actually, because you mentioned a couple of times in there that you guys handle returns for your customers as well.
Yeah.
And I know there's been some discussion in the industry about, through the pandemic, obviously, spike on e-commerce ordering, but there's also been somewhat of a spike on returns as well. So have you guys seen like a huge uptick in returns to coincide with that?
I wouldn't say we've seen a huge uptick from a percentage basis.
Yeah.
I think our returns rates as a percentage of the order volume is somewhere around 5%.
Okay.
I know in some industries like clothing, it's closer to 25%.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen an increase in the percentage of returns versus order volumes, but of course we're shipping more orders,
right.
So we're seeing a lot more returns in the warehouse. Returns is a tough service, right? It's hard, as you know, Kevin. It's hard to get really efficient on returns. Things come back to us. Things come back. I mean, we get things come back to us in a shoebox. They come back to us in a luggage box. We get things that we've never shipped out before.
Oh yeah.
So we actually have a gallery of things that have shipped back to us that we've never shipped out. It's so funny. It's like toys and figurines. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've experienced the same thing because I've been in charge of returns departments myself in my career, and we get a lot of interesting things. One time we got a Roomba, one of those iRobot vacuums, came in, and we were like, oh, okay, let's set this up in the office, and it worked. And and then we got this like bulk box of wooden spoons. One time, I think it was like 5,000 wooden spoons. And the first thing I was like, I don't think I've ever seen like wooden disposable spoons. And I was like, I don't think I've ever seen wooden disposable spoons. This is pretty interesting. So, and then, the employees liked it, so they took them. But yeah, I mean, returns is a messy thing. So yeah, I was curious if you've seen anything there. So, we've talked a lot about technology here, obviously, and it's a really interesting story, DCL, about how that kind of started with your father and how it's evolved over time, not only from a customer mix perspective, but also from a technology. And as we touched on, your father kind of had a good vision here in what was coming and what was the right thing to invest in, it seems like. So I'm curious, looking into the future, what technologies are you guys looking to invest in to keep up with the growth and demand that keeps coming in our industry?
Yeah, I think for DCL, like as a 3PL with many different customers, we need to continue to invest in our eFactory system.
Mm-hmm.
It's our order management system, inventory management platform, if you will. And I think just providing the data to our customers is not good enough. We need to really provide like useful information to our customers. So the deeper the insight, I mean, it sounds cliche, but the deeper the insights that our system will be able to provide our customers, the easier it is for our customers to make better data decisions, better business decisions. So that's one thing that I think we're going to continue to focus on. And as one of the major competitive advantages of our business is that hands-on customer centric service.
Mm-hmm.
that goes hand in hand with the client services team that we're continuing to invest resources in as well. And I think internally in our own warehouse, like where I think we need to continue to look at as far as automation, we talked about the Euro robots. We're talking about, we have conveyance throughout our warehouses for, doing, other B2C fulfillment, B2B fulfillment. So I think what we're doing is we're looking at applications where we can utilize the piece picking robots to do other things. Okay. Like obviously there's a lot of repetitive tasks that we do in the warehouse. Like we fold boxes, right. We fold thousands of boxes, and we fold thousands of boxes of the same size. Like where can we leverage what we've learned with the universal robot to do the same things in other areas of the warehouse? We've talked about, mostly we've talked about business to consumer D2C fulfillment, but we're also looking at automation for B2B fulfillment. Okay. Now, B2B, as you know, Kevin, is where, it's pallet picking, it's full pallet picking. It's also like building a pallet with, 50 cartons on a pallet, type of picking. That's a different skill set than just like piece picking. Right. So how do I think where we're going is what we've learned with Universal Robot is we could take those applications and move them to like the B2B fulfillment part of the warehouse and execute and integrate some automation for B2B master cartons, building a pallet with robots. So again, taking out as much of the human element as possible. We can increase the standard of quality and reduce labor at the same time. So that's the next project that we're actually working on that now in 2021. We don't have anything in production right now, but we have some ideas, and we're working with our integrators to build something for us.
Yeah, very interesting. I was curious what you guys are kind of looking at next, because it seems like you've been kind of into all the technology all along the way, and how do you best evolve. So really good insight there, and it'd be interesting to check back in with you and see how that goes on the B2B side. I'd be interested to hear about that. So I want to thank you for coming on the show today. How can people find out more information about DCL Logistics?
They could go to our website, www.dclcorp.com, and learn about us there, Kevin.
All right, great. And I'll put that link on thenewwarehouse.com as well. So Dave, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.